But one of the key things that people bring me in for is stress resilience. And I think that's a big challenge for companies at the moment. How can we boost the stress resilience of our teams? Another key issue is around sustainability. I'm not sort of the broader sustainability goals we have, ESG, but people's personal sustainability. That's a relatively new idea of mine that I'm really keen to start talking about, not necessarily today, but when we think about the world's meaningful problems, how do we solve those? Well, I think for starter, we're going to have good personal sustainability. We're not going to be able to tackle the world's meaningful problems if we don't have a strong sense of values, integrity and identity, a strong sense of community and personal resources that keep us well. And I think to map that into a business environment, if you're looking for people to come into your business to drive your sales goals, to launch your product, to take the competition to task and all these kind of things that happen every day in corporate life, you want those people to have good personal sustainability, to solve your meaningful problems, market share, all these things that are a key part of capitalism, but do make the world go round. And then community, I think, is another client challenge, which my content helps to address. But particularly in the age of AI, particularly in a hybrid working environment or even a remote first working environment, how do we create that sense of community? So that's some of the problems that might resonate with some of the listeners that I find clients are talking about. I don't know if that rings true to your experience.
Definitely it does, yeah. And you mentioned cadence then, Leanne, and I know you've got a book called Cadence because I've read it. It's on my bookshelf, as is Rise and Shine, and I forget what the other one is called, but I've got all your books.
Remove the guesswork,
yes. Could have guessed that. So tell us a bit more about Cadence and how that impacts some of the businesses that you work with.
Yeah, and I think very generally, a lot of us think we've got to perform at the very highest level all year round. It's perhaps not that much of a generalisation. Now, that can be a number of things. It could be personality type, childhood origins, culture of the business you're working in, or your perception of that culture, your perception of who's managing you, or the reality of who's managing you. But I think a lot of us think we've got to perform at the very highest level all year round. Medium to long term, though, I don't think that's sustainable. And that's why we're seeing huge increases in numbers of chronic stress and burnout. Short term, Tom M, you might be able to go 3 months at high pace. Tom E, 3 weeks, and I might be throwing my hands up after 3 days and saying, this is way too quick for me.
3 hours for me, Leon.
Medium to long term, 3 hours. Yeah. Well, I wanted to be generous. But ultimately, it's not sustainable medium to long term. Yeah. And if we think about a group of people, this is very topical. We've just had Wimbledon. We've got the Olympics coming up. There are sporting events all year round. A group of a community of people who are really good at managing their energy. It is athletes. An athlete like Serena Williams won't expect to go at the very highest level all year round. She'll pick the tournaments she wants to perform at, prepare for them, get them done, get a bit of recovery and go again. And that will be the same across any athletic discipline. None of them will be performing at the highest level. If you think about the Olympics, the Olympic cyclists 4 years. You're literally spending 4 years getting ready for a handful of seconds or minutes. So athletes are a really good example of how you can maintain good stress resilience. But it isn't expecting really high levels from yourself. And that's what Cadence is all about, because in a lot of ways, business is an endurance sport with occasional sprints. Or you might say it's an endurance sport with frequent sprints, and there will be days when it feels like a Wimbledon or an Olympics every day. But what I like to encourage people to think about is the idea of a business athlete. How can you think of yourself as a business athlete? So instead of throwing yourself in at high levels of performance all the time and maybe running aground at some point, thinking about when you want to peak. So for a retail business, I mentioned Amazon. When I spoke for them, and I'm giving nothing away here, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Christmas. They know that that's going to be a full-on time for the business, and they want it to be. So they know that. So in advance, they can get the teams ready for that really rigorous, demanding period. For another kind of business, it might be quarterly sales results, a product launch, new regulation coming in. So knowing that, we can start to get ready for that big event as a team. And that would be small changes that could have a big impact on their ability to perform. Little tweaks to sleep, nervous system management, tweaks to movement, maybe tidying up the diet a little bit, being better connected to other people, whatever it is. Perform is the third phase of Cadence, respecting our red flags, making sure we know. A popular one for me is a little twitch underneath the left eye. Twitch, twitch, twitch. Really annoying. It's just a very early warning sign, a little twitching muscle. Just put the brakes on a little bit, touch the brakes a bit later on and before you go again. And then the final phase of cadence is recover, because backing off beats burnout. But what I call slivers of recovery, looking out the window between Zoom calls, going over and stroking the dog and just having a couple of minutes of daydreaming out the window, something like that. So predict, prepare, perform, recover. It's that cadence. Performing when you need to and getting those little bits of recovery. And that can really boost stress resilience. It can make quite a big difference when you think about things in those terms.